Okay everybody, today I want to show you guys a couple of miracle fruit plants that I've been growing for years, and these are in some pretty good sized containers. I'll show you the first one. This is a container. It's like a 20-gallon container, and that tree's probably about 10 years old. Right now I'll move in a little bit closer so you can see all the fruit that I have on it. I'll tell you a little bit about the miracle fruit plant, and then I will tell you a little bit about how I grow them and how I keep them looking good. So let's move in a little closer here. You can see all the fruit that's on the tree. And if you don't know anything about miracle fruit, let me tell you why they call it the miracle fruit. The main reason is that this fruit has a very, very unique property, and that is that when you take one of these little berries, let me see if I can get in here and show you what they look like. When you take one of those little berries and you put it in your mouth, basically what I like to do is I like to remove the skin with my teeth, and then you're left with a white, whoops, I just dropped one. I'll grab another one. I'll show you what this looks like in a second. Now I just removed, by biting, a little bit of that skin. So you can take this and pop this in your mouth right now and coat your tongue really, really well. So I took some of it off, and I still have some there, so I'm going to clean off the rest of that. And the flavor is really no big deal, but it is kind of a citrusy flavor. And what's happening is that by putting this on my tongue, and I'll put a little bit more on there, and I've continued to clean it off with my teeth and my tongue, and I've coated my tongue really, really well. So by doing that, I could go and grab something like a lemon, or a lime, or an orange, or a pickle. Yeah, I said pickle. Or you can grab some sour cream, and it will taste, because those things are typically sour, those foods will taste so sweet for the next hour. Now, I have actually ruined many people's lunches by doing this little miracle fruit tasting right about an hour before their lunch, and then they go out to eat lunch and they start to notice that everything that they eat has a weird taste to it. But anyway, if you want to try something that's really cool, you definitely want to try a miracle fruit. So you can see all these trees here. Here's my second tree. It's loaded with fruit. You see the containers down there. Now see down there, those are little miracle fruit seedlings. Now those seedlings will take a long time before they bear fruit, because they're slow growing, and they take about 2.5 to 3 years to mature before they actually produce. So what I do is, and you've probably seen this in one of my other videos, I'll do cuttings from these trees, and that gives me a slow growing tree but a very fast producer. So you'll end up with a small, compact little plant that has tons of berries. Now it is June 19th, and this is the season, so we'll continuously get fruit now for the next couple of months throughout the summer. And then in the winter it slows down, but then we'll get a little bit more. So we usually get about 5 crops a year typically from the plants. Now these plants, they really, really love to be, in my opinion anyway, some people disagree with me, they grow them in full sun. I don't like the idea of growing them in full sun. What happens is they get stressed out. They need a tremendous amount of fertilizer, and they need a lot of care, and they need a lot more water. So I have them underneath this tree. That's a giant queen crepe myrtle, and it gives me plenty of shade. And then over here on this side, this is actually the south side, I have all of these areca palms. Right there, all these are areca palms. So you can see that whole line of areca palms right here above, which produces plenty of filtered light. And that's what we've got. We've got these beautiful miracle fruit plants with filtered light. So getting back to the plant. So basically, you're going to be growing something, in my opinion, best grown in filtered light. Bright filtered light is fine, as long as it's not all day long intense sunlight. Now the reason I say people disagree is because if you grow them in intense sunlight, and of course you take care of them by plenty of water and plenty of fertilizer, then yeah, you probably have a lot more productivity. But I feel that the plants will live longer, and end up costing me a lot less money when it comes to the fertilizer and so on. Plus, over-fertilizing your plants, you know, continuous fertilization, in my opinion, is really not a good idea because you're really ultimately going to hurt the environment. Here's come back over to the soil. So what I like to do with the soil is the soil basically, you look carefully, you're going to see here this stuff, and this is a pine bark. These are pine bark fines, right? So this stuff helps to acidify the soil. And you can usually buy that stuff. You can get like a fine pine bark, they call it, or pine bark fines. So it's ground down small little pieces of pine bark. And what that does is it creates a nice acidic soil. You can also get soil acidifiers, but I really don't like doing that. I'd rather just make sure I incorporate in the top layer of the soil some pine bark fines, and then I always mix somewhere around 40, maybe 30% peat. So I make sure I use a good potting soil, and I make some peat mixed in with the soil. They do like to be moist, but they don't want to be soaking wet, but they don't mind the moisture. They do really, really well with that soil combination that I just suggested to you guys and gals. Always forget the gals, I always say guys. So if we take another quick look, you'll notice that, you know, the leaves look nice and healthy. Occasionally you'll get some chlorosis, which basically means they have a little bit of an iron deficiency. And that can happen because the iron is deficient in the soil, but it can also happen because your pH is off. So if your pH is off, you'll end up with some chlorosis. But when they're also fruiting heavily, like these guys are, there's a tendency for them to be a little bit iron deficient. So a good supplement with some type of a liquid mineral, either a foliar spray, that means you mix it with water and you spray the leaves, and you'll make sure that when you do spray leaves for foliar treatment, that you get underneath the leaves. The reason that I like to make sure I get underneath the leaves is because someone taught me a long time ago that leaves have what's called stoma. And stoma are places underneath the leaves that open and close for the process of exchanging gases, right? So basically they open and they close, and then what happens is that in the evening they're open, and then if you spray foliar treatment, make sure it's all underneath and on top too, but mostly underneath. And what I was told, and I believe it's true, and you can look this up, they will do a better job of absorbing the nutrients that way. And you can also do the nitrogen fertilizer that way, and the phosphorus and everything else. I like to spray them with kelp. Kelp is very beneficial, so I would definitely do kelp treatments. Try to go with organics. You know, if you can go organic all the time, go organic. The thing with organic is that you need to do it more often. So if you normally fertilize with a synthetic once a month, you might want to fertilize every 2 weeks. During the warmer time of the year, during the growing season, make sure you use a really good organic fertilizer. And that can be either as a liquid foliar spray, but it should also be incorporated down into the soil. Anyway, I think I covered a lot of information in this video, and I hope that you found it valuable. Again, if you look carefully, you'll see how beautiful these plants are. They're loaded with fruit. And the other thing that's really good about growing these is that they don't take up a lot of room, but look at all the fruit you get, right? So I have here, this is probably what, 11 feet long by maybe, if you include the width of the canopy, I don't know, 5. So say you have about 50, 60 square feet of area, linear, and you've got some amazing trees that are loaded with miracle fruit. Now, miracle fruits sell. Some people will sell them for $1 a piece. Some people sell them as much as $2 for one of these little berries, right? One of these little berries, $2. I know the average price is $1, but some people do sell them for $2. Now here you see some of the leaf with a little bit of a nutritional deficiency going on there. And again, this happens oftentimes because all that productivity that's going on. Now these are older leaves, but if you look, the new leaves, they don't look too bad, right? So it looks like the nutrition now is being picked up, or the pH. So I have to double check the pH and see what's going on with that. So another reason why people grow miracle fruit is because It can be very beneficial to people who are undergoing chemotherapy. What happens is that the fruit gives you the ability to taste again. Many people, and I've personally seen. So, another nice thing about the miracle fruit plant is that the berries themselves, besides being able to take things that are sour and make them taste sweet, they will literally help people who have problems tasting food. For example, people who undergo chemotherapy are often in search of these berries because what they do is they give them the ability to actually enjoy eating again. They can taste after they've taken one of these berries and rolled it around their tongue for at least an hour. They're able to actually enjoy their food, and that's an incredible thing that is a blessing, and people should be able to live life to the fullest. And if you're undergoing chemotherapy and you're doing that type of treatment, knowing that you have cancer and trying to beat cancer, you need everything on your side that you could possibly muster so that you can build the confidence, the positivity, and the strength so you could go on to survive and fight that disease. So miracle fruit can make a huge difference in the fight. And I'll give you a quick example and I'm going to wrap it up. I once had a miracle fruit party. And at that miracle fruit party, I had a lady who was attending. And she was there with her husband, who invited her to come along with him. And we gave out the berries to everybody, and we had a buffet of all kinds of interesting foods on the table. And at first I didn't realize the lady was a chemo patient, but then when I looked closely, I noticed that she was wearing, that bandana on her head, like a covering, because, she had lost her hair and she was covering her hair. Well, she was covering her head, not her hair. She had no hair. But the smile that I saw on that woman's face, it just brought tears to my eyes. I knew immediately that that woman was enjoying food for the first time. And I looked at the husband, and the face of the husband was such a joyous face. And I went up to him privately and asked him to come over. I wanted to ask him something. And he confirmed with me, yes, this is my wife who just has been who's been going chemotherapy, and she is now having a moment of joy that she hasn't had in years. So I got all emotional. I felt great about that. And, I'll leave you with that as the ending to this video. And I want you to remember that God has some tremendous gifts out there for all of us. And this plant is one of those gifts. So if you want to have fun with this plant, you can, but you can do so much more. You can actually make a person with a disease or an illness, a terrible illness like cancer, have a great experience by utilizing these berries. Everybody, God bless. Have a good one.